My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. I'm a 29-year-old woman and my husband is 44. We've been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him at the church I started going to when I moved cities to start my career. I work for an insurance company and he's a pastor. I know that we have a notable age gap, but he was always kind to me and made me feel special. Anyhow, a week ago he came home and told me we needed to talk. He told me through the tears that he had been having an affair with one of our community members and that she had been pregnant with twins. She had gone into labor. She and one of the twins died, and the other is in the NICU. He said we need to step up and that he wants to turn my office into a nursery and set up a cot in the room so we can take turns. I became distressed and told him I wanted some time to think, that I was not sure I wanted to do this. He told me that I had made a vow to him in marriage and that God had blessed us with a child, that this is our cross to bear and that God will never give us something we cannot handle. I told him it seemed God had given her more than she could handle because she had died. I know I shouldn't have said that, but I was not thinking clearly. He slapped me and told me that I needed to serve my husband, that God had chosen me as this child's mother, and I needed to be his humble servant. I just feel so strange. Yesterday I cried so hard I threw up. This woman died, yet I feel bad for myself. I feel so ugly. I wanted children and was saving for IVF because I am infertile. But now that I have a chance to have a child, I don't want it. I feel like I'd be robbing its mother's grave. I pray to God, but if I'm being honest, it's never felt like anyone was ever listening. I feel like I have truly seen my husband, and he no longer looks kind. He looks his age and very tired. I want to abandon him and the child. I'm only 29. I can start over. I have a remote job. I can take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials and leave. Neither he nor the child deserve this. And although this is my circus, that is not my monkey. Wow, it's a very strange reasoning from your husband. Leave, leave, and leave. You cannot trust this man. You have absolutely no obligation to become his mistress's child's mom. This isn't Sister Wives. This is all a very unfortunate and sad situation, but you are a hurt party here. God didn't tell him to knock up a woman outside of his marriage. This whole thing was of your husband's own making. He is trying to coerce you by using religion for his own selfish needs. No, no, no. Isn't it in the Bible that if your eyes tempt you to sin, that you should gouge your eyes out? Well, I'm assuming his eyes are pretty much intact, aren't they? And the cherry on top is he felt so self-righteous in that moment to slap you after everything he's done. No, leave that manipulative, abusive man behind. OP made an update. I left. If that's all you wanted to know, there it is. For those of you asking how the other woman died, it was an amniotic fluid embolism. I don't know much about those, but I guess when they happen, things go wrong really, really fast. We lived in a more rural area, so they just weren't ready for something like that to happen. I didn't leave right away, though I know now I should have. It just wasn't that easy. I stayed for 2 months. I knew if I did not at least try to make it work, I would not be able to live with it. Not because I wanted to save my marriage, but because what ifs keep me up at night enough as is. I went to marriage counseling with my husband, but it was ultimately fruitless. Of course, it was Christian counseling. I felt like their goal was for me to forgive him rather than actually trying to help me. I was so utterly alone during that time. My parents and brother are also very religious, so even though they weren't happy with my husband, they kept urging me to do what a good Christian wife would do. I spent so much time suffering in my own head that I began to realize that I was just going through the motions, doing what I thought people expected of me. I entered a state of derealization for a time, and that was absolutely mind-boggling. The feeling of nothing being real, not even myself, was horrible. During this period, my husband brought his baby home, and while he tried to split the cares 50-50 at first, he ultimately didn't trust me to look after the baby because I was lost in space. So he ended up being the primary provider. When I was with the baby, all I could think about was how its existence ruined my life. It'd look at me with big blue eyes, and I would just wish it would disappear. I would actively spend time resenting a baby. There was even a time when I was thinking to myself that I wished it would stop breathing. That was when I knew that I needed to leave. I was blaming a baby and wishing ill upon it, and that was not okay to do. I don't remember much about this time besides that. It's mostly a blur otherwise. I sought services through my work to talk to a therapist, and I eventually came back to Earth. She helped me make a plan. At no point did I fear my husband. I truly believed the slap was a one-off event. However, screw him. He doesn't deserve closure. One night when he had a long Bible study, and since he always took his baby with him because he didn't trust me, I packed my essentials and dipped. I met him pretty quickly after college, so I did not have much to take as far as furnishings. I fit everything I wanted into 3 suitcases and 4 moving boxes. It all fit into my SUV after some mediocre Tetris skills. I was able to change my phone number online before I left, but I did leave the divorce papers under his pillow with my lawyer's contact info, kind of like the tooth fairy, but for adult a-holes. I was the breadwinner, and in my state, we were not married long enough for me to pay spousal support. At least, that's what my lawyer said. I own my vehicle outright. We had our own bank accounts and shared expenses account. We filed taxes separately, and the church owns the house. He's being a jerk about it all, but I'm hoping it should be done soon. I got a decent apartment in a city a few hundred miles away. I've never lived in a city this big before. Everything is so expensive. But aside from that, I like it. I found a new therapist, met some new friends, and found a new church with loving people. I still have my days, but for the most part, I'm content. I think it will always hurt on some level, but I'm working on taking my power back. I turn 30 next month, and I'm hopeful it will be the start of my best decade yet. Jesus, and he was a pastor. You did well to leave him. God doesn't leave entitlement unpunished. That aside, I hope you live a life he would never have thought of, full of love and success. Bless you, OP, and good on you. You're young and smart and have a great life ahead of you. I think it's good that you stayed to test your decision because now you know and won't have the what-ifs hanging over you. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister there's a reason her kids chose to live with their dad? Throwaway. I have a 14-year-old daughter, Jess. Her father and my husband died in a car accident when she was young, so it's been just us two for a long time. As a result, we were very close, and she's a lot more open to me than most kids are with their parents. Around a week ago, she asked me if I could take her to the movies on a date with a guy in her class. I know the guy distantly because they've done some extracurriculars together, and I was thrilled he was my daughter's first boyfriend. I took them a few days ago, and they ended up hanging out at our house for a bit afterwards. He was extremely polite, and maybe it's just the mom inside me, but I couldn't be happier for her. I went to my older sister's house for coffee earlier this morning. Backstory, my sister has 2 teenagers, 16 and 17 years old, who live almost full-time with their dad. They had a very messy divorce around 3 years ago, and both kids chose to live with their dad. The reason for this was because my sister was extremely overbearing on them. She was the kind of mom who believed kids should have no privacy and she should run their lives until they were adults. I know she had many arguments with them because she would take away their doors, not let them hang out with friends, search through their phones every night, etc. This was the primary reason for her divorce, although she won't admit that. While I love her, as someone who grew up with little privacy, I fully understand why her kids don't want to live with her. My daughter came up in conversation and so brought up her first date. When I explained how it went, My sister laughed and told me that I must be joking. When she realized I was serious, she told me I was a terrible mother for letting my daughter walk all over me and not setting boundaries. She ranted on for a while, but she basically said that 14-year-olds are incapable of going out themselves and that I was being lazy and neglectful by allowing her to do that. She also said, I would never allow my kids to do that. So I replied by saying, that's exactly why your kids live with their dad. She got very quiet and told me to leave. When I got home, I started thinking more about what I said, and while at the time I thought I was simply telling her what she needed to hear, now I'm wondering if I crossed the line. Am I the bad guy? No, not at all. She was only upset by what you said because deep down she knows it's the truth and doesn't want to admit it to herself or anyone else. Your sister thinks holding boundaries is the same thing as making demands, and she'll eventually learn that her children aren't accessories to treat as she wishes without consequence. Let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below. In the comments, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Am I the idiot for refusing to give my mom money for her wedding? My mom is 56 and her fiancé is 59. I'm 29 years old and my brother is 19. My father is 54, for anyone wondering. About 4 months ago, my mom got engaged to her fiancé, Joseph. Joseph is a fairly nice guy, but we do have different takes on a lot of different topics, like politics, which I try not to judge someone on, behaviors, and appropriate boundaries. By appropriate boundaries, I mean calling before coming to see me and my family and not making controversial jokes. One joke he likes to make a lot is how I'm a gold digger because my husband is the breadwinner and makes over double my income. At first, I tried to brush it off and privately texted him and my mom about why I didn't appreciate these jokes, especially in front of family. Now, before anyone thinks I'm actually a gold digger, my husband actually made less than me when we met. Joseph understood over text, but continued to make some of the same jokes. I just tried to move on and continue to ignore them. Since they got engaged, my mom has been saving money for their wedding. Joseph also has, but not as much as my mom, since he says, and I quote, "Weddings are just something to make your wife happy and no husband actually likes them." I'm not sure how my mom hasn't seen this as a red flag. Again, I ignored it since it's not my business. 4 months into the engagement, my mom messaged me. She said, "Hi, sweetie. You know, the wedding's coming up, and I was wondering when you were going to help pay for it." I was shocked because she didn't even help pay for me and my husband's wedding. My dad paid for his part and her part. Also, in my opinion, I don't think your kid should help pay for your wedding even if they are grown. I responded to her text saying, "I wasn't informed I had to help pay. I can maybe buy your cake or something." But she didn't take that very well and called me sobbing, saying how she has done everything for me and how I won't even help her pay for the best day of her life. Sure, if it was a smaller wedding, I might have been able to pay for some of it. But this is a $50K plus wedding. She's expecting me to pay over $15K. I didn't want to hear any more of her sobbing, so I hung up. I'm not sure how to feel. On the one hand, she's my mom. But on the other, she's expecting me to pay for a wedding for her and someone that doesn't respect my boundaries and didn't even help pay for mine. Am I the bad guy? Not the bad guy. According to your mom's partner, you're a gold digger who doesn't earn enough to pay your way in your own marriage. So that should be enough of a reason not to pay for theirs. Tell her you will generously contribute exactly the amount she contributed to your wedding. If she can't afford to pay for her wedding, then she shouldn't have such an expensive wedding. Let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below. In the comments, if you subscribe, remember to click the bell icon for notifications. To enjoy all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description of this video. See you in the next video.